So hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sanskar, and in this particular video we are going to learn how to fetch data from a Google Sheet to our Flutter application. So as you can see, I have some data in my Google Sheet and I'm fetching all of it in the Flutter application and showing it accordingly. So how we are going to build this is by using Google App Script. So how this will work is we will create a Google App Script which is going to have an API key. So this is the API which we will create, right? And this API is going to return all the data which we have inside the Google Sheet. Then we can use this API to fetch the data in our Flutter application, right? The best part about this is you don't need to know any of other languages to understand what is happening over here. I'll explain step by step each and every line. So yeah, let's start to build this. This video is going to be divided into two sections. The first one is going to be setting up our Google Sheet and Google App Script to create a API which is going to return all the data in our Google Sheet. The second step will be to fetch the data from that particular API and then show that in our application. So let's begin. First, to set up the Google Sheet, visit Google Sheets and then visit that website, go to Google Sheet and then just create a new blank sheet. You can also use the one which you already have. It does not matter. Now I'm going to give this name a tutorial, student feedback, and as a dummy data I'm going to use the same data which I have over here and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, now just to give it a little bit of a width. Yeah, so now we have the data, dummy data available over here which we can fetch. So now I would like to move on to create a app script API. So I'm going to go click on tools, click on script editor, and this is going to open up a new window for the script. Now, if you're opening up on a normal and it's not opening this particular page, I did face some similar problem. So what I'm doing is I'm opening this in incognito mode, as you can see, right? So if you face any problem opening this page after clicking on this tools and clicking on the script editor, then please try in the incognito mode as well. Okay, so now the step is to create the API. Now, for this, we are going to create a doGet function. So let me name that doGet. Now, inside this, first, we will open the Google Sheet. Okay, so let me open up the Google Sheet by creating a variable for that, for a sheet, so that when we have a open Google Sheet, we can do something with it, right? That's why I'm saving that to a sheet variable. Now I'm going to call spreadsheet app dot open by ID. So there are multiple options. You can open by ID, you can open by URL. I guess ID is going to be the good enough for now. You can even use the URL as well. So what do I mean by ID is this is the URL for your Google Sheet. ID is this part before that that slash edit, and after this d slash. Just copy that part and paste it inside double quotes. Once that is done, just end it with a semicolon. So we have a sheet now. Now with this sheet, what we want to do is we want to get all the values in that particular sheet, right? So what I'm going to say, I'm going to say variable values. So I'm going to fetch all the values inside of that and then save those to values variable. So I'm going to say sheet dot get active sheet. Okay, and then I'm going to say dot get data range, right? This is going to get the range of the data as well, dot get values. Okay, now we have the values. Next, I'm going to create a variable data which is going to store the data which we will get inside of that values. Now I'm going to run a loop. So what do I mean, why I'm running a loop is because we have a lot of data in here, right? And I don't know how much or how many column and all are there, right? So what I'm doing is I'm going to run a for loop according to the length of the values which I got. So this was the API. This is the project we are working on. So let me just name this one as well. This is going to be tutorial student feedback API. I'm going to click on OK, and that's going to be the name of the project now. Okay, so let me show you what I was saying about the for loop. So we are going to create a for loop variable I is equals to 1 and then I is smaller than values dot length. Okay, this is going to be the length of the values which we have, and then I'm going to say I plus plus. Now there can be a lot of different values in your particular project. Why I am using this particular for each loop and creating another data rather than directly using this values is because I want some specified things. So I want this section, just a second, what did I did? I want this profile pic, I want name, source, feedback, source URL. If there is something more, maybe I may or may not want that, right? So rather than getting all the values and using that, I'm creating another variable of data and then saving the details which I need, and then I'm going to send those details through the API. Okay, so let's continue forward. Now, one question which you may have is whenever we create a for loop, we start with 0 over here, I equals to 0 and I is smaller than values dot length, I plus plus, right? So the reason why I'm starting it with 1 is because I don't want the 0th position values. What do I mean by that? Let's go back to the sheet and see what I mean. This first line is not actually the data, but something for my own. So this is for me to know that, yeah, these are the profile pic, these are the name, source, feedback, and source URL. So in the API, I don't want to return this first line. That's why I have mentioned the I equals to 1 rather than 0. I will definitely recommend if you want to try this out with 0, and you can see in the API you will have the first line as well. So now I'm going to make the values as like this. So now we have created a row, and row is going to be equals to values in the ith position. Okay, now let's create an object variable feedback. Now why am I creating an object? Well, if you see the API, let me show you. The API is actually returning a collection of object, right? If you don't understand a lot about the APIs and all, I have some tutorials on using APIs by building a wallpaper app, building a recipe app. I will link them down in the description, as well add a card, so you can check them out after checking this video, which will really help you understand APIs and how to fetch and build application with it. Anyways, I'm going to explain in this one as well, so you don't have to worry much, but yeah, just for a better experience of everything. So yeah, we are creating an object. Now, once the object is created, like inside of this object, we will have key value pairs, right? So let me create a new key. So I'm going to say feedback, and the key I want is the profile pic, and I'm going to close that. And that profile pic, let's go back and see where is it. So profile pic is actually the row number 0, right? So I want the row 0 from the values. So I'm going to say row 0. Then I'm going to say feedback name, and the name is row 1. Similarly for others as well. So let me just do that. Row 1, then feedback, source is equals to row 2. Okay, and then feedback, then we have feedback, then is equals to row 3, then feedback. The last one was source URL. Sorry, yeah. So this is just a source URL which I have added so that I can have a source of from where this is coming from. Okay, so now we have all the different requirements we have, and these are the values which we will be passing through the API, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to push all of these into the data variable which we created before. So I'm going to say data dot push, and I'm going to push the feedback variable. Okay, now once that is done, I'm going to end it with a semicolon, and then I'm going to return content service dot create text output, right? So that's how the API is actually working. This is a text output which it is generating, right? Now just text is not good enough. We actually want JSON dot stringify the data which we have, and dot set MIME type to be content service dot mime type dot JSON. So basically it's going to be returning a JSON text. So now I can save this and publish this as a web app. Now, who has the access to this app? Make sure to select anyone, even anonymous. Okay, now I will click on deploy. I will click on review permissions and then just select your same Google account. Okay, I need to verify this. But over and all, I guess you get the point that you just need to verify and confirm and it will be just deployed, right? So I don't want to waste your time. So I will be using this particular API key of this particular one, which I published already because this project is published. So I'm going to just show you how it looks like. So once that is done, you will have this URL, right? So now let me copy the URL and this is the URL which we will be using. Now, if you face any problem till now, let me know in the comments. If whenever I'm available, I will make sure to help you out. Okay, so now the next step is to move on and fetch details or basically this data in our Flutter app. So let me open a new project. This is a new Flutter project which I just created with the name Google underscore sheet underscore database. So let me scale this up. Okay. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of unwanted code. So let me get rid of these comments. We don't want them. Then I'm going to get rid of this my homepage widget. It does not exist, hence showing error. Let me now create a new folder. It's going to be views. I'm going to call a new file. Let me just call it home.dart. And now I'm going to create a stateful widget here. But before that, I need to import material. And then I can create a stateful widget here. I'm going to name that home. Okay, now I want to import this over here. I'm going to say home. It will give me an option to auto import it and I'm going to hit enter, get rid of this and save that. Once that's saved, it's showing some error here. What's the error? Override. Okay, I guess I got rid of something. Is there a problem? Let me get rid of this. Okay, and quickly create one more. So I'm going to say home. Is it fine now? I guess so. Okay, so the next step is to just go inside the live folder and create a model. So let me show you that again. So we have this particular, different values, and whenever we are fetching different values or list, basically a list of object, whether it is from Firebase, whether it is from API, we create a model. So first I'm going to create a model. I'm going to go create a new file. I'm going to call this, let's say, feedback model. That makes sense since it's a feedback model. Okay, it should be Dart, not dark. So I'm going to first start by creating a class. I'm going to name that feedback model, and then inside of it I'm going to have all those values. So let me just make it like that, and go over here. We can close this, decrease it a little bit, and continue. Okay, so the first thing which we have over here is a string which is going to be profile pic. I'm using capital camel case over here, not capital, but yeah, camel case. So I'm going to say string, and then I'm going to give name, then string, source. So all of these are string, so that's why I'm using string, but if you have any other, you can. String, source, URL. Okay, now we will be creating the constructor for it. So I'm going to say feedback model, this dot feedback, this dot that, this dot that, this dot that, this dot that. Now, once we have both of these, we need two more functions over here. One function will be there to convert the JSON which we get. So as you can see, we are sending the JSON in stringify and condenser in JSON format. One will be to convert that JSON into this model so that we can create a list of these model and then show that details in a list view. The other one, other function is going to convert a map to like different values into this particular format. So let me show you what I mean. So the first function, as I said, is going to be a factory method. it's going to be called feedback form dot from map, and sorry, from JSON. I mean, it's a JSON which we are getting. I'm going to say dynamic JSON, and I'm going to return, as you may expect, feedback form. What am I naming it? It should be feedback model. Feedback model, okay? Now, inside this feedback model, as we have defined, we will be passing feedback first, then name, then profile pic, then source URL. Now we can change this to named parameters so that we don't have to confuse about what to pass first. So I'm going to say feedback. Inside of that, I can say $sign JSON feedback. Okay, that seems right. We don't need this. Sorry, we do need that. We don't have to. Yeah. Okay, so that's the way how we can pass the feedback. Any error which we are making, I guess we need to, yeah, let me just add that. Okay, so similarly we will be fetching all the others. I guess they are 5, so 4 and 5. Now I'm going to write them down one by one. So the next one is the name, next one is the profile pic, next one is the source, next one is the source URL. Name is as it is name. Now this particular one, okay, just to explain this if you don't understand this properly, over here this is a JSON which we receive, right? Whenever we will be receiving the JSON from the API, what I'm saying is inside that JSON, get me the value of the key name. So you need to make sure this is exactly same to what it is over here. Okay, so for profile pic, I'm not going to just say profile pic. I'm going to say profile underscore pic because that's the name I have provided right over here. Okay, now I'm going to go for source. Source is same, so I'm going to use source. For source URL though, we are using it like this, so that's why I will be passing that like that. Then I will add a semicolon and save. Let me close this. Next function is to have a map from to JSON. Now then I'm going to say like this. So basically its return type is map and the function name is to JSON, so that we can call it feedback model dot to JSON if you want to convert that to JSON file. Then I'm going to say profile pic, and that's equals to profile pic, correct. Source, that's equal, sorry, not like that, but source is equals to source. Then what do we have? We have a profile pic. Okay, we have a source URL, so I'm going to say source URL, and that's going to be source URL. Okay, that's going to be a comma. Then we have a name, and we are going to pass name here. Then we have a feedback, and we are going to pass feedback there, feedback. Okay, so that includes the 5. I'm going to add a semicolon and that's done. Okay, now let's move on to the home dot. And before we continue further, I would like to run this application in our real device. So let me just grab a screenshot of this so that we can see what we want to build and then we can make it. And now I'm going to run this particular application which I just created. Now bear in mind, this is going to be a whole blank screen with a black color, whole black screen. So let me just open up that screenshot which I just clicked, and that's there. Let me just decrease of the, okay, that's the minimum width I can go for. So let me just keep it maximum like that, and we can minimize this for a second. Now let me just get it here, get the mobile application right side of this. Okay, so this looks good. Let me get it here, get this here. Okay, so now we have this, and I'm going to see. So as I mentioned before, we are going to see a black screen. That's what we have right now. I want to change this to a scaffold. Why am I using a scaffold? Because we want to use the material widgets, which includes the app bar. So I'm going to say app bar. Now inside the app bar, I'm going to first add a title. So title, it's going to be text widget with mention students. I'm going to save that, and you can see we have it here. Okay, the next thing which I want is I don't want the elevation, as I can see here. So I'm going to just get rid of that quick. Okay, and then the colors and icons, but I think you're not here for that. You know, we are here to learn how to fetch the details. So let's continue on that. I can do this at the end if you want. So I'm going to go inside the container, and inside the child. Now before we can show a list, we need to have a list item, right? So let me just quickly create that first, and then we can continue. So let me remove that. Create a stateful widget for the list item. The reason why I'm creating a stateful widget is if we want to update, we should create a stateless widget. I mean, since we have nothing to update, but if you have something in your list item which is updating, in that case you can use a stateful widget where you want to use a set state, but I don't have any requirement in my feed. So I'm going to create a stateless widget, and I'm going to name that feedback type. Okay, inside of that I'm going to have this one. So let me divide this into separate widgets. So this whole is going to be the feedback tile which we are creating. So this is actually divided into two different widgets. This is the first one, and this is the other one, right? Now both of these widgets are aligned vertically, so we want to use column over here. Before we use column, we need to mention it's a child of the container, and then I'll say column. Inside column I will say children, and inside children, the first children we have is this row. This is a row of two widgets, this one and this one, right? So I'm going to create a row first. Inside of that row we have this image, so I'm going to say image dot network. Why am I using network? Because we will be showing the image via URL. Now, so let me just also mention all the variable which we values which we have. So the first value which we will have is the image URL. As I can see here, I can say that profile pic, as we have mentioned there. Let me just grab them from there itself, like that, like that. So we need the profile pic, we need the name, we need the source, we need the feedback, we need the source URL. Okay, so now let me get rid of these, get rid of that. Okay, once you have defined all the different variables inside a widget, we need to create a constructor to accept all of these. So I'm going to say feedback tile. Inside of that, I'm going to name named parameters. These are 5, so I guess it's better to use named parameter over here. Dot name, and this dot source, this dot feedback, and this dot source URL. Okay, and these variables or the values are not going to change, so I'm going to make them final. So now let me save that, and rather than passing source here, I can pass profile pic now. Okay, now let's move on to the next step. I also want to make sure I can show you something while I'm building. So let me just copy this feedback tile and open or show it here. But we don't actually have fetched the details yet. So let's I'm leaving this in the middle as well, right? Anyway, let's continue and create the function first to get the details. So I'm going to say get feedback from sheet. That's just a name I'm providing. So to get the details from API, we need to use a package called HTTP. So let me open that up, and I'm going to just a second. Let me just open a new tab and open HTTP pub.dev, and I'm going to visit the website. I'm going to search for HTTP. First one, installing, copy, visit your pubspec.yaml file. Just below this, make sure these are aligned at the same place, save it to fetch, or you can click on this, close that once done, and now we are able to fetch the details. Now let me minimize this. If you want to read more about this package, if not aware about how we use this, for APIs, I do have already some good tutorials, as I mentioned before, wallpaper and recipe app. You can learn from them as well, but you can read the documentation if you want. But basically we will be using this, have this post request, okay, and this also have a get request. So you can see HTTP get, where are you? Not sure. I don't think we need to find it, but yeah, we will be using a get request. So let me show you how and what I mean by that. Just a second. Okay, so what I let me just increase this a little bit. I hope it's clear to all of you guys. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go inside this function and I'm going to say http. Well, we need to import that first. Import http in quotes http http as http. Now we can use it through this. So I can say http dot get request, and now I can pass the URL. So where is the URL? Let me open that up. Not this one. It will be from this one, which we just were discussing. So actually I am not logged in with this particular, like I need to let me just try that again if they allow me, for myself at least. Maybe no, cancel anyone. Let me choose anyone, even anonymous, and let me deploy that and review the permissions. Select the account. Okay, so it's asking me to confirm. I'm going to use this particular one, but there is nothing extra you need to do. You just need to deploy, select your account, confirm, and then it will be deployed, and you will see this kind of pop-up that it is being deployed as a web app, and you just need to copy this current web app URL. If you have any problem, again, make sure to comment that down below. I will make sure to help you. Okay, so now I'm going to submit that here. Let me minimize it. Okay, now we have that, and we will be getting the details. Now I am not going to just directly just get these details. We need to save it somewhere, right? So what we can do, we can create a list of feedback form. What have we named? Of feedback model, and I'm going to call that feedback models. Feedbacks, I can say it like that. And then I'm going to say list feedback model, and like that. Okay, so we have this feedbacks, and now I want to save the data which we get from this to this one, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say variable, raw, whatever you want to name this, data. This is basically the raw data which we are getting, right? Then what we can do, we can say print, what am I doing, print raw dot body. We can have a look at it, how it looks like, but I guess we should just move on to JSON feedback is equals to convert dot JSON decode. We need to import this convert. Let me just make sure that convert okay, we can import that like this, import dart convert as convert, like this. Okay, and via this convert, now we can use the JSON decoder. Where it is? Here. So now I can say dot JSON decode. So you can see we have the option available now, and we can pass in the raw dot body which we have right now. This body is nothing but the JSON which we get from the API. So now once we have that, I'm going to say as. Okay, it's not accepting, is not defined. Let me just check that out again. Okay, so the raw, I guess, okay, we need to use await here. Okay, we need to wait for this to run, and if we want to use await, we need to use async. Okay, so now in this raw, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say raw dot body, and now it will work perfectly fine. So we have this JSON feedback now. Just to show you what we have, let me just print this out. This is the, sorry, over here we will say this is JSON feedback, and I'm going to write that $sign and JSON feedback, and right there we have that. Let me copy that open this up in the console, save it all. So I guess we have an error. Says that home.error method get dot found run await http.get. Says get method does not found. Okay, let me just save that again. What if I rerun the application? Says restarted the application. Let's just call this function. Okay guys, let me just call this function in the init state. Why in the init state? Because that's the first function to call when the widget starts. Let me just call that from there, save that, and now if I will restart the application, either there is an error or it should show me this is a JSON feedback. So you can see we have this is a JSON feedback. We have the profile picture, we have the name, we have the source, we have the feedback as well. Okay, so let's continue now because we have that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say variable, directly use this. We can say JSON feedback dot map JSON feedback model dot from JSON. This is the function which we created. I hope you remember this one. Sorry, this one. Okay, so we are converting the JSON to the model from JSON, and when we are going to end this. Okay, so this is going to return us a list of that. So I can just say feedbacks is equals to that. So if I will save that, let me make sure feedback is updated. So I'm going to say console.log. Sorry for that guys, I'm a bit mixed with multiple languages here. So yeah, so feedbacks, and I'm just going to get one value out of it. I'm going to say 0. So let's save that and see how it is working. Let's go back to the debug console, get rid of everything. I'm going to restart the application again. And what we are expecting is to first see this is a JSON feedback, and the next we want to see the feedback 0 value. So this is the feedback which we got, but unhandled exception type mapped list iterable is not as a subtype of list feedback. Okay, so that is a mapped list iterable. Okay, so that's not exactly what we wanted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run, let me get rid of this. I'm going to say JSON feedback dot for each, and we are going to say element, and let's see what we have if we do it like this. Let me clear this all, comment this out, save, and restart the application. So we got the data, that's perfect. The next thing which we want is we want this to be loop and get us single values for everyone. And I guess it's working. Just to confirm, I'm going to just cut this out and type something in here. This is next. I'm going to save that, restart the application, and let's see if we get this print. Okay, so I can see this is next. Yeah, so this is working. We are getting what we wanted. So once we have this element, let me just make sure we have what we wanted. So after this is next, we have a value which is from profile pic to the end of it with source URL with all the values which we need. So now what we can do, we can create a new model. We can say feedback model is equals to new feedback model, and I'm going to say feedback model dot name is going to be equals to element then name. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. Feedback model dot feedback is going to be equals to element, and what is the key for the feedback? It is feedback. Next we will say feedback model dot, we have the feedback, we have the name, we have the profile pic now, element element. Then we will provide the key. Now for the profile pic, it is profile underscore pic. So I hope you remember that, profile pic. Next we want for feedback model dot, we have the source. I'm going to say element, it's going to be element, and then we will provide the key, which is source. So we have 1 2 3 4, one is more, feedback model dot source URL is going to be equals to element, then source URL. That's done. Don't worry about these brackets, single and curly double, both are going to work. Okay, once we have all these values from the element saved to the model, I am going to save this model inside this list. So this feedbacks, and I'm going to say feedbacks dot add feedback model. Now I want to make sure this is working fine, so I'm going to go and print length. Okay, length gth of feedbacks. Just want to have it big enough or standing out, feedback.length, and I'm going to save that with a semicolon and save that and restart the application. Okay, let's see. So the first thing will be, we will be printed with all the JSON feedback we are receiving, and as you can see we have the feedback list to be 5. That's good. And I guess I'm printing that inside the loop, that's why it was printed every time. So now I can get rid of it because we are getting the values. Now we have the values from the API. Congratulations. Next step is to just show that in the application. We are very close, guys, so I hope you don't get lazy and wanted to watch some movies on and all. Today is Sunday, so anyway, when I'm creating this video, but yeah. So yeah, now we have the image here. So without waiting any further, let me just show you this particular tile. Okay, I'm going to go inside the body container, create a child, then a list view dot builder. This is going to take 2 things. First is the item count, and that is going to be feedback. What have been named? It's feedbacks. Okay, feedbacks dot length. Then I'm going to say item builder. What happened? It's not showing me suggestion. Anyhow, you don't need that. I'm going to say context, and I'm going to say index. Then I'm going to say return the tile. So that tile is feedback tile. Okay, I'm going to provide all the different values we have. So I'm going to say profile pic. Are these named parameters? I do think so. Why is there problem? Not sure. So I'm going to first save it. We have an error. Let's move on and provide the values. Profile pic, it is going to be equals to feedbacks. Index. So feedbacks is actually a list of feedback model. By mentioning the index, I'm getting a model. From that model, we want profile pic. So I'm going to say profile pic. I hope you understand this line. I'm going to paste that 5 times. I'm going to say name. I want the name. I'm going to say source. I want the source. What do we have then? Well, I want the feedback. I want the source URL. I want the source URL. I'm going to save that. And you can see we have the images of all the different people right over here. Okay, so we are fetching the data from the Google Sheet. Let me just complete the UI part and you'll be good to go. So first of all, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a different size. So I'm going to give it wrap in a container, provide a height of 40, width of 40, and save that. To provide it a circular border radius, I'm going to wrap it inside a widget. I'm going to name it's actually called clip r rect. This is used to provide the border radius. So I'm going to say border radius dot all, because I want it from all the sides, all the corners, especially 4 corners, and I want that radius dot circular. I'm going to go for 40, I guess, or maybe something like that, so that's fully circle. Okay, you can see, but we have quite a lot of padding from outside, so I'm going to provide that now. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to say padding edge insets dot all, and I'm going to provide around 16 padding. That makes it some good. Now what we want is at the row, at the side of it, we want a column in which we will have the name and source. Okay, so I'm going to go outside this container and I'm going to create a column because we want two widgets, which is the name and the source, to be one above the other. So this is ending right over here, so I can start the next one from here. So I'm going to say column will have children. The first child we want is actually the name. The second child we want is going to be the source. Now we are not directly showing the source, but I'm saying from, and then I'm saying the source. So if I will save that, you can see we have it. A little bit of a spacing will be good enough, right? So let me just provide that. So I'm going to say sized box. I'm going to say, okay, width to be around maybe 8, so that we have some space, maybe 16. I guess 16 will be fine. We want to align these text in the start. So I'm going to say column cross axis alignment dot start. Now you can see they are starting from the start. Next, we can play with a little bit of styling on them. I can give them a style, text style, maybe font size, do something like 16 or something. I don't think font size is required for this. Let's just give the style to the source so that it just stands out a little bit. Text style. I mean, the name should stand out. That's why I want to give the text color to it to be colors dot gray, right? So that's basically that. Moving on, once we have that, we want this feedback. We don't even have a feedback for now, so we just have created the upper section of it. Now let's move on to the line number 100. This is the one, correct? So I'm going to say one thing, that is over here I'm going to create a text, and that text is going to be nothing than the feedback. Then I'm going to provide a little bit of size box, height of around 16, and sized box, what happened, size box. Okay, if I save that, you can see we have this. Just to make sure every feedback is aligned from the start, I'm going to go over here to the column cross axis alignment dot start, and I will save that. So that's all. We are fetching the details from the Google Sheet. If you are interested to learn how to push the data to Google Sheet from your Flutter application, I have a video on that. I will pin it down in the cards, which you will see at the top right corner, or you can see it in the link in the description. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like and please share it with other people, and I'll see you in the next one.